I have John Levy here, president of John B. Levy Company. Now, John, what are some of the biggest challenges the industry is facing, and how is commercial real estate managing to recover?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is we were managing to recover really well earlier this year, and then we went into a freeze as temperatures kind of warmed up in the summer. We went off into the freezing temperatures, and I think part of that was that the economy started to teeter, the U.S. got downgraded, and so now commercial real estate is really not doing really as well as we hoped they would. Earlier this year, I thought that the financials said that commercial real estate was going to do really well, but the economics said we were behind, and unfortunately we caught up. We're not doing nearly as well as we thought. So I think one of the biggest things coming up ahead of us is we've got $1.5 trillion, that's with a T, of mortgages to be refinanced in the next 4 years, and we don't really have the money to do that.
And now, how are both big banks and small banks dealing with all this fallout?
Well, very differently. It's very interesting because the big banks are actually doing quite well. And if you look at them, they're doing quite well because they have a relatively low concentration or exposure to commercial real estate. And the big banks are actually looking to put more commercial real estate on the books. So if you look at Bank of America, if you looked at PNC, if you looked at Wells Fargo, they're actually looking to put long-term fixed-rate mortgages on their books. But the smaller banks, the community banks, the regional banks, are really still overwhelmed with commercial real estate, and so they're not trying to do that. So we really have the the haves and the have-nots, but the big guys are doing much better than the smaller and the regional guys.
I wonder how a mortgage from a commercial real estate standpoint versus a personal housing standpoint looks. Is one considered more reliable than the other?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Housing is actually much better because, first of all,
you're always going to try to pay off your own
house. You live there.
Before.
That's right. Nobody wants to be out in the street. Two, you guarantee it. And your personal or your husband's or both of your guarantees are on that. With commercial real estate, our loans are non-recourse. And what that basically means is if the loan doesn't perform, you get the property back, but you don't get the person's personal guarantee, plus they don't live there. So if you look at commercial real estate and say, does it perform as well as single family? Over time, no. Now, we've just had an experience with single family where we might have to change our numbers.
Well, I'm wondering how those numbers look now that obviously there are more and more people that aren't paying their mortgages.
Well, the answer is, up until recently, commercial real estate was doing reasonably well, and we're still doing relatively well. For example, in the commercial business, a 10% delinquency is a high number. And if you looked in single family, right now, that's a very low number, especially in these subprime mortgages.
Absolutely.
So the answer is, it's a different business entirely. But I think the big difference is you live in one and you guarantee it. The other one is an investment and you don't guarantee it.